subscribe and, like the video.
You guys not realize that like they just come across as unironically satanic. Meanwhile, the Church of Satan is doing the opposite, actually practicing, more moral religious values. Anyway, hold on. I'm telling Marshall, look at my stream now. I'm going to send him the photo. Also, he means sympathy, not empathy.
Whether they're illegal immigrants or anybody else, in a way that keeps us safe. Let me ask this question, Margaret. Let's separate the immigration issue. If you had a violent murderer in a school, of course I want law enforcement to go and get that person out.
Of course.
So what's the point of the question?
You changed the regulation this week. That's the point of the question.
Exactly.
Giving the authority to go into churches and go into schools.
We empowered law enforcement to enforce the law
that also
everywhere
has
to protect Americans.
Effect, a chilling effect, arguably, to people to not send their kids to school.
Yeah, famously, the violent murderers in school are the undocumented migrants and not like the mentally ill American children that can easily pick up their dad or mom's weapon and do a school yeah, those are the violent people that must be removed. Anyway, good stuff. Thank you, JD. Killing it.
I hope it has a chilling effect on illegal immigrants
coming into our country. You think the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops are actively hiding criminals?
I think the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has frankly not been a good partner in common sense immigration enforcement that the American people voted for. And I hope, again, as a devout Catholic, that they'll do better.
There are 5 legal challenges already to one of the other immigration actions, the order on birthright citizenship. A federal judge appointed by Ronald Reagan, I think you'd agree, has some conservative credentials,
sure.
Paused the order to end birthright citizenship, calling it blatantly unconstitutional. How do you reconcile this challenge to the 14th Amendment to the Constitution?
So I obviously disagree with that judge, and these things, some of them will be litigated. That's the nature of our constitutional system. But here's the basic idea of President Trump's view on this. If you are a lawful permanent resident or a legal immigrant who plans to stay, your children, of course, should become American citizens. But let's say you're the child of an ambassador. You don't become...
But that's not part of it.
Well, that is an
important
principle. But we're saying that carve-out should apply to anybody who doesn't plan to stay here. If you come here on vacation and you have a baby in an American hospital, that baby doesn't become an American citizen. If you're an illegal alien...
He's like, the Constitution is but a piece of paper, okay? Who cares? Which is, I mean, I agree. It's just that conservatives only use that mentality for the worst policies you've ever seen. Incredibly frustrating stuff. Like never a new interpretation for the Second Amendment, operating on the false interpretation of the Second Amendment, only offering new interpretations or just outright defense of unconstitutional policies when it comes down to undermining some of the most positive aspects of the American government. Just ridiculous.
And come here temporarily, hopefully, your child does not become an American citizen.
I'm going to look at the Colombian president in a second. Hold
on American soil. It's a very basic principle in American immigration law that if you want to become an American citizen and you've done it the right way, and the American people and their collective wisdom have welcomed you into our national community, then you become a citizen. But temporary residents, people who come in here, whether legally or illegally, and don't plan to stay, their children shouldn't become American citizens. I don't know any country that does that or why we would be different.
Oh, but this is a country founded by immigrants.
Well, this is a country founded by...
This is
This is
a unique country.
a very unique country, and it was founded by some immigrants and some settlers, but just because we were founded by immigrants doesn't mean that 240 years later that we have to have the dumbest immigration policy in the world. No country says that temporary visitors, their children, will be given complete access to the benefits and blessings of American citizenship. America should actually look out for the interests of our citizens first, and that means, again, if you're here permanently and lawfully, your kid becomes an American citizen. If you're not here permanently, if you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and don't plan to be, why would we make those people's children American citizens permanently?
I want to ask you about refugee admissions, which were just suspended by the president. That has nothing to do with the U.S. border. Refugee screening takes 18 to 24 months to go through. They are heavily vetted. Left literally at the airport this week were thousands of Afghans some of whom had worked with the United States government and were promised to come here. When you talked to us in August, you said, I don't think we should abandon anybody who's been properly vetted and helped us. Do you stand by that?
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals
but there are
have been properly
30,000
vetted.
people in the pipeline, Afghan refugees.
But my primary
Do you stand by
concern
it?
as the vice president, Margaret, is to look after the American people. And now that
So
we
no.
know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash thousands of unvetted people into our country.
These
It's
people are
not
vetted.
good.
These people are vetted.
Just like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago, he was allegedly properly vetted, and many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly, he wasn't. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted, and because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other.
Yeah, good stuff. Just straight up, in a country where the overwhelming majority of domestic terror incidents occur in the hands of American citizens with political opinions that oftentimes resemble, reflect, if not completely mirror, the likes of J.D. Vance, far-right anti-government extremists, white nationalists, white supremacists. J.D. Vance tries to make it seem as though refugees that go through a 2-year process of thorough vetting that have oftentimes played a formative role in American military operations are actually the real terrorists. That's crazy. It doesn't matter. It's just complete false. It's completely ridiculous. Oftentimes I explain racism as a puzzle. In order to solve a puzzle, right, you have to put pieces together. And there's always this one piece that's missing from the puzzle, and racists will just slam on racism as that puzzle piece. They'll just be like, yeah, the real secret sauce is just racism. Yeah, nobody wants violence. Nobody wants terror, obviously. Why would anybody want that? That's the most insane concept ever, right? Wait, what? It's not effing for me. Did it actually F? I'm confused. Anyway, regardless, nobody wants violence to occur on U.S. soil. So Republicans would look to that situation and say, yeah, well, the violence and the terror and the issues that are happening in America are happening because of what? Well, because of, don't look at the data, because of Muslims and refugees. Okay, that's what it is. I promise. Please don't look at the data. Please don't recognize what you see in front of your eyes. And for many people, they don't actually recognize it, because when a white dude does when a neo-Nazi white dude does an act of terror, people just see it as a lone wolf. People just see it as a little guy who's crazy. But when a Muslim person does the same, they're like, oh, all Muslims are this way. This one just simply could not hold back his violent desires. Stop generalizing all Republicans based on unfactual information. Explain what you mean right now. Because I'm not generalizing all Republicans. I'm talking about the attitude that this Republican, who is the vice president right now, is demonstrating. One that every Republican voted for, by the way. The fundamental principle behind mass deportation advocacy comes from a falsehood. The notion that undocumented migrants are coming from all around the world, from different backgrounds, different demographics, doesn't matter, different creeds, different ethnicities, but they all have one mind, and that is to do crime in the United States of America, and therefore must be violently apprehended and deported from this country. Okay? Do you or do you not agree with that? Do you think that there is, one, a massive issue with undocumented migrant crime? Do you think that undocumented migrants are responsible for a ton of crime? Let's start there, Garrett. Yes. Okay. So you do agree. I love that this guy was like, dude, what? Stop generalizing Republicans. And then illegally entering the country is a crime. Yeah, so is jaywalking, dumbass. Should I kill you if I catch you walking? Should I put you in a detention facility? You know? So is not stopping at a stop sign. Like, not coming to a full stop at a stop sign is a crime. Do you think all crimes are the same across the board? You're like, listen, I don't understand, dude. This guy's like, this guy's doing the I see no color, but for the law, you know? You don't understand, brother. I see no difference, okay? people who accrue child abuse material and people who don't come to a full stop at the stop sign are both in direct violation of the law. And therefore, I'm law blind. Okay. Who says Republicans want immigrants dead? I think you are hyper focusing on one aspect of my commentary and failing to comprehend that deportation, no matter what, is an incredibly violent act. It doesn't have to immediately lead to death or whatever. And you think that it's hyperbolic. Okay. And when I'm doing commentary, I am being hyperbolic, although Republicans do say that all the time. Having said that, however, if you recognize, as I do, the reality that crossing a border to come and earn a living in the United States of America is not a severe crime, right? That is worthy of the most severe kinds of punishment outside of death, I guess, is being deported is an incredibly violent protocol, an incredibly violent punishment for something that is not as severe a crime as I think you would also recognize. Trump's executive order targeted people with violent crimes, not just going after all immigrants. Then we should do more help people come in here legally. Republicans don't disagree with that. That's so funny that you're literally watching the vice president talk about not just like legal immigrants that they are denying their actual day in court, but even refugees that have already gone through the vetting process, like a thorough vetting process. And you're like, no, you don't understand. We just got to make it easier. Like, what are you talking about? This is a person currently advocating to not ease that process, but to make it impossible. The process is already incredibly difficult, incredibly arduous, incredibly complicated. And he is saying, cut it out. No more of that at all. He also just said, no more birthright citizenship. Like, do Republicans not hear words that are coming out of the mouths of their favorite politicians, the politicians that they voted for? Do they just not understand that words have meaning, that policy has consequences? It's very interesting. It's a very interesting phenomenon. I genuinely don't get it. Or do they think we're just as stupid, and that if they just consistently maintain this position that like all of the things that you're hearing from this administration are actually not bad, but good, and serve a higher purpose that you simply cannot comprehend, while simultaneously feeling this deep shame that you're advocating for ultimately very violent things, right? The reality will be different. Very strange behavior. Like, that doesn't make sense. I think that there's a lot more honesty for a Republican who says, yeah, man, I don't f with them. I think they're scary. I think they're barbaric. And, my culture is superior to theirs. My race is superior to theirs, right? Like, I think that is the underlying worldview at play here. That's the underlying worldview of white nativist policies in general. That is an infinitely more honest approach to the subject matter than to sit there and be like, no, you don't understand. Like, we want what's best for migrants. And that's the reason why we have to literally violently apprehend them on the streets in their homes and put them into detention facilities and then, ship them out of the country immediately. That's what's good for them. Okay? We also simultaneously must no longer allow birthright citizenship, something that has been constitutionally protected, enshrined in the law, the Constitution that we care so much about. You don't understand. It's better for them. You can't have a civilization on other people's children. We must protect the future. We must protect and secure a future existence for white children. This is just a normal approach. You don't understand. That's not racist to say, I'm just a little guy. I'm just a little guy who's emulating Jared Taylor. I'm just a little guy saying 14 words in succession. I mean, it's just 14 words, one behind the next. What's the problem? I'm just a little guy. I wasn't Sig Heiling. Come on. You're crazy. I just, I have an autistic hyperfixation, and sometimes my body just moves in that way. Just a little guy. It's so indecent to just like constantly advocate for obviously bad policies that are genuinely harmful to millions of people. Policies that stem from a complete falsehood. The notion that undocumented migrants are responsible for a massive amount of the crime that Americans experience. And then turn around and act like this is actually just a good thing, and that like you should appreciate it, and you shouldn't be so mean to those who advocate for this kind of stuff. I'm not here to be an apologist for everything a politician says. My point was it's harmful for you to generalize all Republicans' viewpoints. It's just us versus them ideology. No, dude. You see, the difference is I have empathy for all people, including Republicans. So even though a Republican might be a scared little moron who is terrified of their own shadow and thinks that like cities are making, I don't know, the children gay, and also there's crime happening at any moment in a city, and that undocumented migrants are actually coming in to every white American or whatever. Okay, I still believe that they deserve health care, and I still believe that they should get free health care and also better education overall. Because if you address those two issues and also offer permanent shelter, they're going to be a little bit better educated and less susceptible to this kind of right-wing framing on issues. Okay? That's the difference. I recognize that, you know, most Republicans, you know, lumpen proles or reactionaries in general of varying different backgrounds that are all a part of the same working class have the same exact class interests. And I want conditions overall, regardless. He has Asperger's. He's incapable of understanding how to correctly convey emotions. He thought that throwing his heart out to the crowd would convey that he's appreciative. Elon did not roam and salute. That's so funny. I watch you for years, for time to time, and Zach for a long time. You know what? I don't know why, but I'm starting to shift in your way of seeing the world. Like I loved Elon, Zach, etc. Now I don't know, thinking they're frauds, too right, etc. So I'm getting normal. Yeah, I think you're recognizing certain things. Better late than never, you know? It's so funny to say, I'm not here to apologize. I'm not here to be an apologist, and then be like, a day after Elon Musk gave a speech, 2 days after Elon Musk did jokes, and then a day after Elon Musk gave a speech at the AfD, party of Germany's rally, telling the German population not to feel guilty about the Holocaust. This guy still is like, you don't understand. He's just a little guy. He's just a neurodivergent minor. You know? Simultaneously the wealthiest man on the planet. Okay? And supposedly this man that is brilliant, but also a little guy. Just a little guy that's dumb as hell and just autistically did the Sig Heil.
American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country, and I think most Americans agree with me.
2 weeks.
Yeah, no, it's you know, you're permanently different, right? So I guess it's not a So if you're a refugee or not, right? If you're a refugee or not, like there's a difference. When an American is radicalized and they engage in an act of terror, okay? That's different than when a refugee is radicalized in America and engages or plots an act of terror, okay? That refugee is permanently representative of every other migrant that comes into the country because they're a hive mind. They're a parasitic force, okay? They're a hive mind. They're a parasitic force, and there is an intractable quality, an unchanging quality to them. I wonder what it is. Yeah, there's no assimilating, okay? You are permanently an outsider if you're a refugee. There's just something about it. There's just something about it. Maybe, I don't know, their racial disposition. Hasan, choose your poison. You have many people who listen to you, yet you deceive them into believing Democrats are innocent, good people with good policies. They don't even follow through on what they claim to stand for. Stop being so hard-headed. Yeah, I famously always say that. Yeah, that sounds a lot like me, man. You seem to have watched me quite a bit. Sarcastic, by the way. I don't know if you can pick up on context clues or not, but that's funny that you... Yeah. People will come in here and just say anything.
You were on Fox News and you said, if you protested peacefully on January 6th and had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. Did you counsel the president against these blanket pardons for 1,500 people,
Well, Margaret, I noticed
including those who committed violence?
Margaret, I noticed that you cut off the thing that I said immediately after that. The full quote is that, of course, there are gray areas. And here's the nature of the gray area. Merrick Garland's Department of Justice denied constitutional protections in the prosecutions. There were double standards in how sentences were applied to the J6 protesters versus other groups. What the president said consistently on the campaign is that he was going to look at a case-by-case basis.
This is blanket.
And that's exactly what we did. We looked at 1,600 cases, and the thing that came out of it, Margaret, is that there was a massive denial of due process of liberty, and a lot of people were denied their constitutional rights. The president believes that. I believe that, and I think he made the right decision.
Daniel Rodriguez used an electroshock weapon against a policeman who was dragged out of the defensive line by plunging it into the officer's neck. He was imprisoned, sentenced to 12 years, 7 months. He got a pardon. Ronald Maccabee hit a cop while wearing reinforced brass knuckle gloves, and he held one down on the ground as other rioters assailed the officer for over 20 seconds, causing a concussion. If you stand with law enforcement, how can you call these people unjustly imprisoned?
Margaret, you're separating, there's an important issue here. There's action on the 6th, and we're not saying that everybody did everything perfectly. And then what did Merrick Garland's Department of Justice do in unjustly prosecuting well over 1,000 Americans in a way that was politically motivated?
Is violence like that against a police officer ever justified?
Violence against a police officer is not justified, but that doesn't mean that you should have Merrick Garland's weaponized Department of Justice expose you to incredibly unfair process, to denial of constitutional rights, and frankly, to a double standard that was not applied.
Are my eyes and my ears deceiving me? Is JD Vance saying violence against law enforcement officers is never justified? But interesting, crazy. But some of these dudes deserve it. You know, some of these dudes, some of these cops need to get their pushed in. Okay.